Hey, welcome to this our Deming Special Interest Group interview series. Today we continue under the topic motivation, what motivates people. Today we speak with Dr. Kevan Leach, the Vice Chairman of the Deming Special Interest Group. Welcome, Kevin. How are you?
Oh, hello, Chris. How are you?
Well, great. Looking forward to this discussion today.
Yes, likewise.
So much, especially in relation to the topic that we are discussing, motivation, seeing that there are so many challenges. But before we begin, I just wanted to ask you to share with us, the audience, a little bit about who is Kevin Leach, and how did you become interested with the work of Dr. Edward Deming?
Um, well, I'm Kevan Leach. I really started off in life serving an apprenticeship in machine tool company, and I've been interested in engineering virtually all my life. But most of that, since university time, has been spent in the food industry. So I've had about 40 years experience in the food industry. But for Dr. Deming, I guess it started around 1995. Working for a company, and the managing director would send the company directors on specific training courses. And the first one I went on was by the Goldratt Institute. People may know of Eliyahu Goldratt and his books on It's Not Luck and the Goal. It was very interesting looking at the way he organized production systems. But later, after coming back from the course, I found a lot of Deming's material lying around in the business. So I kept hunting and ended up collecting quite a library of it together. I thought was better material. And later I became involved with the Dem Sig group at the CQI, the Deming Alliance, and also the Transformation Forum, which was organized by one of Dr. Deming's pupils, and which ran many three-day conferences. And it was on one of those conferences I met Bill Bellows, I met Davis Bellostraci, and many others who became influential in what I was doing. And later, when running my own business, many of these teachings became of great relevance to both my business and the client businesses that I was working for. And I know we're going to be talking about motivation, but I think one of the core foundations of that, and it was one of the things that Dr. Deming put great store by, and that was respect. He had great respect for people, and he practiced that all his life. And to me, that's a core foundation of motivation. And I'll return to that as we go through this interview.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for that. That's actually a good lead up into, just generally sharing with the audience that today we are discussing the issue of motivation and demotivators of people. We're going to explore what motivates people and what does not motivate people, looking at the issues that in terms of satisfiers and dissatisfiers of people, and what is considered fleeting motivation, and what really activates deeper meaning, engagement, and satisfaction in our people. We know that this is really one of the challenges for leaders and managers in today's work environment. So we're going to explore these concepts through the Deming lens. So Dr. Leach, can you share your insights and thoughts on motivation and demotivation? Are these really opposites? And what do you believe are is at the heart of the over-reliance on extrinsic motivation practices to influence people?
Oh, gosh, Chris, that's there's a heck of a lot there. So let's break it down a
Break
little
it,
bit.
yeah. You can dissect it as you need to. Yeah.
Thank you. I think, first of all, there are many contributors of what I would call sound theory on understanding what's motivation. A few of those you put down as Con on his book, really, on Punished by Rewards, Dan Pink, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, Chen, and I'll be coming on to some elements of that. There are also some managers in the world who belong to the give them the kick up the backside brigade. But with that approach, you might get motion, you certainly won't get cooperation, you won't get commitment or collaboration. But these managers mainly want compliance, but to me, that leads to suboptimal performance. And for a moment, I just take a sidestep into Ashby's law of requisite variety. Ashby states really that for a system and organization to be regulated or under control, then it system to be stable, the number of states of its regulatory mechanism must be greater than or equal to the number of states in the system being regulated. Now, if you don't have motivated people in your organization, then all the regulatory control falls on just a few managers. And that means there are just simply not enough abilities or control mechanisms within the organization to actually control the organization for all the general buffeting that a business will see just in the course of normal business. So for me, motivation is highly relevant in these organizations because it helps fulfill Ashby's law of requisite variety.
So we will recognize that, at the heart of this motivation, there's really a desire to unlock potential, to improve satisfaction, to stimulate innovation and greater performance. Why do you believe that it is really important to understand, to have a firm understanding of motivation as a leader, as a manager, and how does this understanding of what really motivates and demotivates help managers to avoid mismanaging their people and embedding practices that are counterintuitive to fostering cooperation, pride in workmanship, and a true sense of belonging?
I
What
think,
what what essentially does the managers need to do and know, about motivating people?
well, I think one of the first things in here is the bit that um, Dan Pink brings out in his book, and there's a very interesting video by animated by the RSA on Dan Pink, and there are two real things in there. There's a great belief in some management that if you reward the the people who deliver the results you want, you will get more of those results. And there's a second belief, which is if you punish the outcomes that you don't want, you'll get less of them.
Consequences. You must have consequences for
Yes,
poor actions. Hmm.
absolutely. The simple answer is they don't. It, it, it actually doesn't work that way at all. What we find is that when we try to apply extrinsic motivation, then a monetary reward may work if the task is purely mechanical. If you can set it out and it's completely defined, then it may work. But if there's any cognitive requirement in the task, then this simply doesn't work. And in fact, the more you try and reward somebody, the poorer the output will be. Indeed, as Alfie Kohn says, are people motivated by rewards? Yeah, sure as heck they are. They're motivated to get the reward. What they don't do is actually move the business forward. So you don't get, as a manager, you don't actually get what you think you are paying money to get. You get the opposite. You get disengagement and disillusionment amongst your employees.
Mm. So what do leaders and managers need to about know and do about motivating people and about learning and about leading transformation? What do we really need to get at to really work with our people better, to stimulate them, to to drive meaning, to drive engagement, to drive that passion, to unlock their potential
Right. There are
and
three
bring it to
elements.
bear on the organization. Sorry.
That's fine, Chris. There are three main elements that I'll come to, which are autonomy, purpose, and mastery. And I'll pick those up in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But first of all, the classical text on this, on motivation and demotivation, is Hertzberg. And if we look at the top four motivators, they are achievement, recognition, the work itself, which is basically the autonomy, responsibility, trust, and advancement. And the thing about motivators and demotivators are that they're not opposites of each other. If you don't have, I'll do the demotivators in a minute. If you don't have the demotivators, it doesn't automatically mean that you have the motivators. And the top 4 or 5 demotivators are company policy, the way the administration works, supervision, relationships with supervisors, work conditions, and surprisingly, salary. Salary can be a demotivator. As Deming used to put it, just pay the going rate, employ the best people, and let them get on with it. So if we take the elements of demotivation and motivation in there, then just do what Maslow says. You have to get Maslow off the table. Just pay enough money so that salary is no longer a problem in the business. You don't have to be the best payer. You certainly don't need to be the lowest payer. You just have to pay at a mean level. And that will be
Just
different for different businesses.
just for clarity, one of the things you mentioned extrinsic motivators and intrinsic motivators.
Yes,
By way of clarity, can you explain?
yes. The extrinsic motivators are what many business managers feel are the rules that they need to apply. Monetary reward for doing the right things, punishment for doing what in their eyes are the wrong things by the business. The intrinsic motivators are the ones about um, purpose. If the purpose of the business is not aligned with the purposes and beliefs of the people in the business, they will disengage. Autonomy. People need to have enough autonomy. They do not wish to be micromanaged every minute of the day. These are quite capable and competent people. And the third one is mastery. People just want to get better at doing what they do. There are a number of great examples out there, but let's just take Linux as an example, the Linux operating system or the Apache servers which run most of the internet. All of that is really written by volunteers. There are people who write this stuff in their own time, correct it in their own time. And if you look around the world, most of the universities are actually helping to make Linux as strong an operating system and now as powerful an operating system that competes on equal ground with some of the paid for operating systems. So it's this mastery mastery objective that is driving people. They just want to do a good job. There's another interesting corollary. There are many managers in a business who may think that they have a stressful job.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you can't ask this under rules of employment, but it's quite often you might find that one of your subordinates is actually in a volunteering role doing a much bigger job than the manager's doing. They may be running a whole county's football teams and all the management of the training that goes with it. And they have to do it by influence. They can't do it by authority. It all has to be done by influence. So they're motivated to do that because they get a lot of kudos out of it, they get a lot of satisfaction mainly, and they're very good at it. And so the better they are at it, the more they want to do it. You can see that in some of the riders in the Tour de France just at the moment. You
Mm.
know, they have a really good day and all they want to do is go out tomorrow and do an even better day.
So I recognize a lot of your work actually speaks to this movement away from command and control and really, shifting towards influence and working and cooperation and so on. So in in light of that, what do you see as the rule and shifting away from even the question of performance appraisal and ranking people and rating and ranking people and things like that? What do you see as the role of the current manager, the current leader in today's organization? Um, is he more of a coach, a leader, dictator, inspector? What what do you see as the role that needs to be played by the leader or manager in today's organization?
Well, hmm, I think the first thing that the leaders need to do, I'll just go back to the point I made before, which is about recruit the best people, pay them enough money to get muzzle off the table, put them where they're most effective, then get out of the way and let them get on with it. And it's not getting out of the way totally. The leader's first job there is to make sure that the team has all the resources and all the facilities that it needs in order to do the job. So let the team do the job, but you have to provide, as the leader, you have to provide all the resources and the environment for that to happen. Within the team, there needs to be top of the list of requirements for the team, there needs to be psychological safety. And that's something that has to be worked out between the team members and the leader. And they all need to agree on that, and they all need to work towards it. The next thing on the list is really clear goals and clear objectives. And you don't have to go soft on these. They can be very demanding and very hard, but they need to be clear. And the leader's role is to defend the team, even when it goes wrong. It's his role or her role to defend the team when it goes wrong. They take the responsibility for that, but they give all the praise to the team when it goes right.
How do we really stimulate the capacity of our leaders and managers to give up that sense of authority and control and, hand it over to the team? Basically, you could actually feel like you're undressing yourself um, before your team and so on. How do we develop leaders with that capacity to, you know, give control and to operate in a shared environment as opposed to what has been traditionally um, been known as, the sort of command and control, leader knowing everything? How do we really shift that leader to being more of a facilitator, a coach, a mentor, and to even be situational in the sense of applying uh, the most appropriate style in the most appropriate situation?
Mm.
Mm.
I think, first of all, Chris,
Mhm.
the number of real leaders around are pretty few and far between,
Mhm.
because the status quo that we have in businesses and how you climb the greasy pole in a business is all about the negative factors.
Mhm.
It's, the manager who says, I didn't get where I am today without whatever. Um, that that doesn't work. Also, what I think is problematic is the way all the reporting works in businesses at the moment. So we need a completely different mindset. Something very interesting I saw recently was an organization where they had stripped away the normal budgeting requirements in the business. And rather than the hierarchical structures you'll see in Scholte's work and others, um, they'd got it down to just two levels. There was the functional management level, where you would have specialists in certain areas, people with specific skill sets, and that would include the board of directors, which you absolutely need under regulatory requirements. And then the next level was simply the functional level, at which you are collect teams together, which you pick from all these different specialisms, and they're all the customer facing teams. One of the things that was interesting in that is that there's new roles coming out where people in the business are coaches. They're coaching people on how to operate in teams, how to operate with customers. The customer drives, they must let the customer drive what is needed. They must respond to the customer. The team needs to agree the direction and where it's going. And in the end, they're responsible for delivery to the customer. It makes everybody in the business customer facing, where in some traditional hierarchical businesses, only some people are seen to be customer facing. One of the things that you see is that in traditional, let's say, skill-based organizations, somebody would be very skilled as a craftsman. They might then become foreman or a leader and may work their way into more seniority. That's quite good because they had the skills and the knowledge and the experience that people new into that framework didn't have. But in many of today's organizations, they are so complex that it's quite often that the people who are at the customer facing interface know a heck of a lot more about what's going on and what's really needed by the customer than those in, shall we say, positions of designated authority. So those in the position of designated authority trying to run the business, it's very difficult for them because they are not connected with what's really going on at that customer business interface. We need to train our managers to understand that interface and become part of that interface. And that's what a good leader does. A good leader would understand that interface and let the team get on with it.
I think that one of the things that you actually started to bring to mind there is this whole question of the importance of understanding the entire system and
Yeah.
not tampering with the system. And could we really be tampering with the system by mismanaging our people or by applying, some of these extrinsic motivation practices? The question that I have now really speaks to the thinking of Deming. Typically we think of the 14 points, which is all about managing people, all about managing transformation, and the system of profound knowledge. The importance of on appreciating systems, appreciating that the impact of variation on the system, the knowledge of psychology, the importance of learning, understanding how people learn, how to improve, and generally, to apply a discipline framework in terms of theory of knowledge, in terms of that improvement of a system, plan to check up and those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
How
Yeah.
do these, that system of profound knowledge fit in to the issues of leadership, and how important it is for some of our leaders, managers, to really apply these concepts, because you understand that that knowledge of psychology really plays into this whole dynamic of the human side of quality and managing this human side of quality, emphasizing its importance, and recognizing that this system is all interrelated and none of the elements are separate. What are your views in terms of the impact of that system of performing knowledge on motivating people, and what do leaders need to know and do?
I think, first of all, Chris, I think it's absolutely essential. I think the system of profound knowledge really sums it up very much, and those four elements are all key. I think there are two things to me that um, that many managers fail to grasp, and they sometimes don't just fail to grasp them. I think they have a complete aversion to the fact that they might exist. The first one is variation. There are many managers who will say, we can take all the variation out of the system wherever we are. In fact, they wouldn't even use the word system. We can get rid of variation. I'll show you how it's done. The point is, you can't get rid of variation, and you need to understand that there are two types of it. So firstly, variation, a lack of understanding of variation and how to deal with it. The second point is, I don't think many managers see their organizations as systems, that everything is interconnected. If you push in one place, then you'll get something moving in it, somewhere totally unconnected. The only one person I did meet once was one boss I had who said he's like a controller in a railway signal box. He pulls the levers, but he doesn't know what's going to happen, and it could be days before he finds out what's happened. But at least he came closer to understanding that these things are systems, and that we don't actually understand all the interconnections. And having a good understanding of systems and the way they operate, I think, is essential for somebody as a manager. And I think Deming just sums that all up, the psychology behind it as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of what people practice in the extrinsic motivation really leads into what we consider to be manipulation. So, and that was really beautifully said, in terms of your response. So in closing, and looking at, I mean, we have looked at a lot today. What message will you like to leave with the audience about motivating people? Any do's and don'ts? And, what are some of the things that we should absolutely take away from this interview?
I would say to leaders and managers, one of the hardest things for you to do is to recruit somebody who's cleverer than yourself. But it's actually what you've got to do if your team is going to succeed at the end of the day. Recruit the best people, pay the going rate, as I said, put them where they're effective, and then get out of the way and let them get on with it. You need to be a counsel and a coach, but not a judge. And your job's to make sure that the team has all the right resources and the collective freedom to do what the job in hand. And it's not a recipe for unbridled chaos. You need to limit that through directional focus. Don't have a blame culture. Blame cultures are just a way of saying, I've got a problem, but I'm not going to let you see it. That's no good. And admitting a mistake is the fastest way of getting yourself out of a downward spiral. If you don't admit the mistake, then you'll be constantly trying to put a front on that says, we haven't made a mistake, but you're busy in a downward spiral. And that takes a lot of energy and takes the focus away from promoting what is actually needed within the business. And as I say, people are intrinsically motivated. Give them the freedoms to actually do what motivates them. The purpose, the autonomy, and the mastery. And to bring mastery forward, you must do that in a way. Chen puts this very well. Chen shows that you need people to stay in the flow zone if they're going to uh, produce their best work and grow. So on one point, you'll have the challenges. On the other hand, you will have the beliefs and actually their experiences grow. And you've got to grow those at a rate. And it's different for individuals. A good manager, a good leader will recognize that in their individuals, in their team members. We also have to recognize that people learn in different ways. Some people learn by watching a video. Some people learn by reading. Some learn by reading and then writing it all out. Others learn by example. Well, I know a couple of people that learn by following pictures. We all learn in different ways, and a good leader will recognize that and ensure that the individual members in the team have the right resources to help them learn and develop the best way that's suited to them.
And again, beautifully said, Dr. Leach. This has been really a phenomenal experience in terms of facilitating this interview. I think that you have done an excellent job in sharing some great insights on what motivates and what does not motivate people. I want to thank you for this contribution to the Deming Special Interest Group and look forward to talking to you again. Thank you.
Chris, it's been a pleasure, and thank you very much for your guidance in working through in structuring the questions and how we could bring this together.
No
Because at
problem.
the end of the day, it's knowledge is no good unless it's given away freely to the benefit of other people. And that's really what we should do.
And again, thank you, Dr. Leach. Thank you.